Some people seem to stay friends with everyone. No matter where they go, people feel comfortable around them. Old friends still call them. New people trust them quickly. They rarely create enemies, rarely create drama. And somehow, they move through social situations with a kind of emotional smoothness that others struggle to understand. But psychology suggests this behavior is often much deeper than simply being nice. Because people who stay friends with everyone are usually operating through very specific emotional patterns, social instincts, and psychological adaptations. And sometimes, those patterns are healthy, but sometimes they come from emotional survival. One of the biggest reasons certain people maintain so many friendships is something psychologists call social attunement. Social attunement is the ability to quickly read emotional environments and adjust behavior accordingly. These people unconsciously monitor tone, body language, facial expressions, tension, emotional shifts, and group dynamics constantly. Their brain becomes highly sensitive to emotional harmony. So instead of naturally expressing every emotion openly, they often adapt themselves socially to maintain connection. And over time, this creates someone who feels emotionally easy to be around. But it can also create emotional exhaustion internally, because highly socially attuned people often spend enormous mental energy managing the emotional comfort of everyone around them. This is especially common in people who grew up around emotional unpredictability. Psychologists have noticed that children raised in emotionally tense environments often become hyper-aware of emotional changes very early in life. Their nervous system learns, conflict is dangerous, disconnection is stressful, keeping people emotionally stable keeps me emotionally safe. So later in adulthood, they may become the friend who avoids conflict constantly, the peacemaker, the emotionally adaptable person, not because they are fake, but because their brain learned that social harmony equals emotional safety. And this is where things become psychologically interesting, because many people who stay friends with everyone secretly struggle with boundaries. They fear disappointing people, hurting people, being disliked, creating emotional distance. Psychologists sometimes connect this behavior to rejection sensitivity. Rejection sensitivity causes the brain to react very strongly to signs of social exclusion or emotional disapproval. Even small tension can feel psychologically intense. So instead of risking conflict, the person often maintains every friendship possible, even unhealthy ones. This is why some people stay connected to former friends who drain them emotionally. Toxic people, emotionally one-sided relationships, people they outgrew years ago. Because ending relationships feels emotionally heavier than maintaining them. And socially adaptable people often become extremely skilled at emotional compartmentalization. Different versions of themselves emerge around different people. Around one group, they become quieter. Around another, more energetic. Around another, emotionally supportive. Around another, humorous and relaxed. Carl Jung described something similar through the concept of the persona. The persona is the social mask human beings develop to function within different environments. Everyone has one to some extent. But highly socially intelligent people often refine this ability far more deeply than others. They instinctively understand what version of themselves will create the smoothest emotional connection. And while this can make them socially successful, it can also leave them wondering which version of themselves feels most real. Another reason these people maintain so many friendships is emotional memory. Emotionally intelligent people tend to remember emotional details about others extremely well. Birthdays, past conversations, personal struggles, specific insecurities, emotional patterns. And neuroscience shows that emotional information is often stored more strongly in memory because of activation inside the amygdala and hippocampus, meaning emotionally meaningful interactions leave deeper psychological imprints. So when someone remembers small emotional details consistently, people naturally feel valued around them. And feeling valued creates attachment. But there's another side to this psychology that most people never notice. People who stay friends with everyone are often emotionally lonely. Because being socially connected is not the same thing as feeling emotionally understood. In fact, some highly socially skilled people become so good at adapting to others emotionally that very few people ever truly see them clearly. Everyone experiences the version of them that feels comfortable, but not always the deeper emotional reality underneath. And over time, this creates something psychologists sometimes call emotional masking. The person becomes known socially, but not deeply known emotionally. This is why some socially connected people still feel strangely isolated internally. They are surrounded by people, yet emotionally unseen. Another reason these individuals maintain broad friendships is emotional non-reactivity. Highly socially adaptable people often tolerate behavior that others would react to immediately. They let small disrespect go. They avoid escalating arguments. They absorb tension quietly. From the outside, this can look like emotional maturity, and sometimes it is. But sometimes, it comes from conflict avoidance. Because psychologically, avoiding conflict and resolving conflict are not the same thing. One creates peace, the other only delays discomfort. And people who stay friends with everyone often become experts at delaying discomfort, especially if they fear emotional rupture. This also explains why these individuals often become the therapist friend. People trust them emotionally because they listen carefully, regulate reactions well, and rarely make others feel judged. Mirror neuron research may partially explain this. Mirror neurons help human beings emotionally simulate and understand the emotional states of others. Highly empathetic people often activate these emotional mirroring systems very strongly, which makes others feel emotionally safe around them. But emotionally safe people often absorb enormous emotional weight from others over time, and eventually, constantly carrying everyone else emotionally can become exhausting. This is why many socially connected people secretly disappear sometimes. They stop replying, withdraw quietly, need isolation, feel emotionally burned out, not because they suddenly stopped caring, but because their nervous system becomes overloaded from constant emotional processing. And one of the most misunderstood things about people who stay friends with everyone is this. Many of them are terrified of being misunderstood. They avoid conflict not only to protect others, but to protect how they are perceived emotionally. Because once someone dislikes them, criticizes them, or disconnects emotionally, it can trigger deep feelings of rejection internally. So maintaining relationships becomes psychologically tied to maintaining emotional security. And this is why losing even one friendship can sometimes affect them far more deeply than people realize, especially if their identity became connected to being the good friend, the emotionally dependable one, the understanding one. But eventually, many socially adaptable people reach an important psychological realization. Not every connection is meant to be maintained forever. Some friendships survive through authenticity. Others survive only through emotional self-sacrifice. And those are not the same thing. Real friendship allows honesty, boundaries, disagreement, emotional individuality. It does not require constantly reshaping yourself to maintain emotional harmony. And perhaps the healthiest social skill is not staying friends with everyone. Perhaps it is learning who truly feels emotionally safe to be yourself around, because true connection is not built through endless social adaptation. It's built through emotional honesty, without fear. And people who finally learn that often stop trying to keep every relationship alive, not because they become cold, but because they finally understand something important psychologically. Being accepted by everyone sometimes comes at the cost of being fully known by anyone. And emotionally healthy people eventually stop trading authenticity for universal approval. If you related to this video, comment which part felt most personally accurate to you. And if you enjoyed deep psychology content like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more videos about human behavior, emotional intelligence, relationships, and the hidden psychology of the mind. See you in the next one.